Right, good morning, everybody. I hope you can hear me okay on the call. So I'm just going to outline what this call is going to be about. We're going to be together I'm going to hopefully go for about an hour and 15 minutes. So the purpose of this call is to introduce you to the new book that I've just written, which is The Sleeping Tiger Revolution, which is published and available on Amazon today. And to give you a bit of an indication about why I wrote the book and what it means for business coaching and personal development going forward for people. At the end of the call, I'll answer any questions that you can type into the screen as we go. And I will be putting a deal on the table for those of you that are interested in taking things a little bit further with me. So for those of you that don't know me, and those of you that do, just as a reminder, I had a 25-year career in corporate, and I started off as a clerical assistant. And at the end of that 25 years, I ended up as director of financial operations for a major telecommunications company. Now, through that time, I worked for 7 FTSE 100 companies, a startup telecoms company, and a consulting firm. And one of the things that characterized my career was that I always somehow felt that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't have all the skills and all of the knowledge that I needed to be really effective. And it wasn't until I left the corporate world and started coaching smaller businesses. I've been involved with over 70 businesses in my business coaching career. That I actually started to realize I had far more information tucked away in my head than I thought. And it was an interesting thing to sort of realize that actually you've got far more knowledge than you think you have. But what intrigued me when I worked with small businesses was that fundamentally they were having the same challenges that the big companies were. Um, the difference being that there were far less people, so you couldn't get away. The owner of a small business can't get away with substandard performance on a week. They can't have a bad week without it affecting their business. So I became quite intrigued about the relationship between individuals' performance and the performance of their companies. And I spent a lot of money and a lot of hours studying that, and also working with my clients. I got more and more insights into what drives performance in people, particularly performance in people working in companies. And that's what drove me to write the book Sleeping Tiger Revolution. And the reason I call the book The Sleeping Tiger Revolution is what I noticed is that there's far more potential in people than we ever use. Even when we think we're really going at full bore, we're not even scratching the surface of our capabilities. So my kind of job is to try and wake the tigers up. So what have I actually learned? Basically, the book is about the 4 drivers of performance. And this is them. So we've got mechanics, execution, connection, and grounding. So let me talk through those individually. Every business operates to a set of commercial principles, and they're what I call the mechanics of business. So there are a set of activities that every business has to do in order to be successful, to keep its customers and to grow. And there are 7 core activities which I will take you through. Understanding those is critical to the performance of anyone in business, and also understanding all 7 activities as opposed to just the one that you may have been specifically trained in is particularly important. The next lever of performance for an individual is their ability to execute, to actually get things done. And I think this follows a pattern of 4 key habits I've observed in my clients, which I'm going to walk you through. The third lever of performance is the ability of people to connect with others and to build relationships with their customers, their suppliers, their team, and their colleagues. And I think this is a much maligned discipline. We often talk about communication and being better at communicating, but I think connection is something different. It's something deeper and more fundamental. But then finally, the most important lever of performance that I've observed is how well grounded any individual is. So by grounding, I mean, how clear do they really understand who they are and what they want and how the system works? So how the world works around them. And I'll talk a little bit to that as well. So let's start off by having a conversation about the mechanics of business. So you should be able to see this slide in front of you at the moment that shows the 7 mechanics. So when I was in internal audit, I spent a lot of my career going into businesses, and I was basically given 4 weeks to actually understand a business, not only to understand it at a level where I could explain it, but I could also critique it and give them feedback about how good or not they were. And the way I did this was when I finally figured out that every business is fundamentally the same. So these 7 activities are things that to some degree every organization and every company is involved in. So the first mechanic is actually having a product or service, a clearly defined product or service that fits a clear market. And these two, they can work, you can have a business that has a market and then designs products for the market, or a business that has a product and then goes and finds a market. But the relationship between the product or service you're offering and the availability of a market is critical. So once you have a product and you have a market, the next activity is to go and get customers. And this breaks down into fundamentally two activities, marketing and sales. So marketing is the ability of your company to attract interest from the market that it's trying to reach. And sales is the ability to convert that interest into a sale. Then once you've got the sale, I think it's really important, and I remember this in my corporate days, the amount of companies that there would be a huge hurrah when a major sale had been won. But the sale isn't won when you get the order. The sale is only won when the third activity has worked, i.e. you've delivered the product or service. And I've seen major wins, multi-million-pound deals lost through poor delivery in some of the corporates that I worked for. So delivery is important. Once you've actually sold, you have to be able to deliver in a consistent way, in a way that your customers become used to and that they like. And this can be far more complicated than it seems. And I think particularly for small businesses, there can be a tendency to believe that they are really good at delivery. But if they're not demonstrating consistency, you will lose customers as a result of it. But if you deliver your product and service well, you enable the fourth activity, which is that you keep your customers and you grow them. You find other ways of generating revenue from the customers that you've got, and you keep in contact with them and you nourish that relationship so that they become sticky and they don't want to leave you. Because ultimately, you actually want your customers to be referring more business to you. There's no quicker and more effective way of generating new business than having customers recommending others to you. So those first 4 things are all about delivering something to a customer. But then, of course, the 5th activity is that within doing that, you have to make sufficient margin. And you only have 2 real levers to make margin. You can either charge more or make more revenue, or you can reduce cost. But finding the right balance between giving a great product and a great service to a customer and still making margin is the fundamental of a good business. Because having good margin will then generate cash into the business. And the management of cash, again, is a much maligned activity, but it's fundamental. Your ability to make sure that all of your customers have paid you and your ability to manage the cash flow out of the business will ultimately dictate how much you have left over to reinvest in the 7th activity, which is building a structure and an organization around your company. So ultimately, if you're an owner or if you work as a director in a company, you will be interested in the 3 elements of organization structure. So that's people, process, and structure, the way you configure people and process. And the principle here is that you are in a never-ending search for leverage. So you are always trying to get the structure to be more efficient and to deliver more for less. And that completes the cycle of what I call the mechanics. Now, what I think is interesting in these mechanical areas is there's nothing complicated in here. I maintain I could teach anyone anything they need to know about business mechanics in about 2 days. But what's intriguing is it seems when you're running a business or working in a business, it seems that all of the problems show up in these 7 areas. And that's where they have an effect. So if you're not getting enough business, it looks like there's something wrong in marketing and sales. But what I typically find is there's something deeper going on. It's in one of the other levers that is causing the problem. So the next lever of performance is how you as an individual are able to execute. So there's 2 types of activity you'll be undertaking in your job or in your business. You'll either be undertaking hamster wheel activity, i.e. you'll be doing the day-to-day stuff that just keeps the hamster wheel of the company turning around, or you'll be engaged in activity that is growing the business. And the key is to find the right balance for your particular role so that you are always doing enough growth activity so that one day you'll actually be free of that hamster wheel. And so the way I coach people is in 4 key habits, 4 habits of execution. Now, they are habits for a reason. When you come to brush your teeth, you don't have to think about, oh dear, I need to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush, then I need to put it in my mouth, then I need to rub profusely for 2 minutes. You do that stuff without having to use your conscious mind. And by ingraining habits in the way businesses are run, you do the same. So you create a habit of execution that people don't think about, they just do. Now, the problem with these habits is there is always other stuff that feels like it's more important or more urgent than actually doing the right thing. But there are 4 key habits. The first habit I've identified is what I call the habit of intent. So if you're running a business or running a department or a team of people, there will always be somewhere or something you are trying to change in order to improve performance. So the habit of intent is the ability to be able to recognize that the difference between where you are now and where you want to be, and to build a plan to plug that gap. So this is about planning and about identifying what needs to change. And there's a bit of a dichotomy for businesses here, because I think the world is changing at a rate now that we haven't really seen before. It's an unprecedented era that we're living in. So long-range planning is becoming increasingly unuseful versus short-range planning and having a much clearer idea of what's going on out there in the world. So my principle with planning is plan in the shortest timescales possible, but have a very clear understanding of where you're trying to get to in the long term. But within that, being flexible about how you're going to get there. So intent is the habit of actually setting out a plan to get from wherever A is to wherever B is for your organization. Once you've done that, the next habit of execution is focus. So focus is 2 things for me. One is it's stopping doing the things that are not going to deliver the growth that you need and the transition you need to get from A to B. So it is eliminating all of the distractions so that you can do the second thing, which is to hone down on just doing a few things really, really well. One of my favorite management writers, Vern Harnish, says, and I think this is so true, more businesses choke on opportunities than starve of them. So are you actually reducing your effectiveness by trying to do too many things? I always like to think of no more than 3 things on my daily agenda Then once I've got those done, if there's another 3, fine, but only focus on getting a few things done really, really well. So the third habit of execution is the habit of actually taking action. And again, I feel there are some genuine challenges for some people. It's not that they don't know what they need to do, it's actually taking action. And it's making the choices to do the important stuff before the urgent stuff that really makes the difference for businesses here. And then finally, there's the habit of insight. There's the habit of gathering enough data and enough intelligence to understand where am I versus where I want to be and what's going on in the world that may affect my business. So you see how this creates a kind of a wheel of execution, because insight will then feed the planning process again. But what I think is really important here is the discipline of focusing on these 4 habits of execution and not letting them slip, not letting the urgent overtake the important in your day. But one of the things, when I first started coaching and I was using a coaching system that was created by somebody else, we used to have a lot of strategies and tactics to help people manage their time better and do planning better and have better insight. And one of the things I realized is that, in my own life, when I look back over my long corporate career, I must have tried every time management system out there, and I couldn't make any of them stick. It was not until I found these habits that worked for me, that were individual to me, that it really started to work. So I no longer teach people specific tactics about how to be better with their time or how to plan better or how to gather data better. I help them see the principles behind these habits and let them design their own ways of executing. So these 4 habits are fundamentally what change the business and what create growth and more efficient ways of doing things. But again, I often find it's not the habits of execution that cause the problems. So the third lever of performance is your ability to connect with other people. It's the third ring in the circle. Any business requires that you are able to build relationships with and maintain relationships with other people. There's no such thing as a business that just operates in isolation of any other person. If there were, it would be a great business to be in. Because as I see things, business itself is simple. It's when you involve other people that things start to get complicated. And that's because all of these other people have their own requirements and their own needs and their own goals and dreams that they're trying to achieve. But the ability to connect well with other people requires that you change the way you communicate and you start to listen more and you start to focus more on understanding where other people are coming from. In the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, Stephen Covey has one of the habits is to first seek to understand and then to be understood. And when I really got that at a very deep level, that changed everything for me, because I realized it wasn't my job to try and influence other people all the time. It was my job to understand them first and foremost, because by understanding them and by questioning and listening to what they were saying, I often found that there was more common ground than I ever thought of. So actually perfecting the art of connection is really important. And I deliberately called this connection rather than communication, because communication to me is about one way, is about me persuading you or you persuading me. Connection is creating deeper relationships with the people around you and actually suspending your own innate desire to mind read. So one of the things I notice is that we all think we're great mind readers. We all actually think we know what other people are thinking. And when you get past that and you actually are prepared to enter into dialogue with someone in a way that really seeks to understand them, the relationship really blossoms and you actually find far more common ground. But the thing that really stops us being able to execute the mechanics, maintain habits, and connect with other people is what I think is the single most important lever of personal performance, and that is your grounding. So one of the things I noticed when I've been coaching people is that there are always one or two conversations in my relationship with them that are game changers. And most of my clients can point to those specific conversations. And this is where a penny dropped and something far more fundamental happened than they learned a new tactic. Something changed in the way they saw themselves and the way they saw their business. So basically, their grounding changed. So one of the things I learned when I first became a business coach was a formula for success. And the formula said, in order to have whatever you want was a function of two things. It was a function of the person you were and the actions that you took. And the formula was be times do equals have. So I spent my time as a coach trying to get people to take on new skills and new mindset and new attitudes, to become a different type of person and to take lots of action so that they get what they want. And whilst this was correct at some level, it missed the point. The point is that you already have everything you need. Your grounding is sitting within you. So my favourite metaphor here is one of my coaches, Michael Neal, talks about the metaphor of the diamond, the horse shit, and the nail varnish. And I'd like to walk you through it. So inside you, as you sit here now, is a diamond that the person you were born with that was perfect. You had everything you needed to be a perfectly functioning human being and to go out and achieve whatever it was that you wanted to achieve. And then as you grew up and you were given access to information and you listened to your parents and you listened to teachers and you listened to your colleagues in the classroom and your colleagues at work, you started to cover your diamond with horse shit. You started to believe a load of stuff about you and how you fit into the world that simply wasn't true. But that stuff started to cake on quite deeply till you came to a point where you could no longer actually see the real you because you're covered in all of this thinking and all of these beliefs that shape the way you see the world. And then at some point you recognize that you're covered in all of this horse shit. And so you then start to change, but instead of chipping away at the horse shit and getting back to the diamond, you actually paint yourself in nail varnish. So you change, and you change yourself into who you think other people want you to be. And this is the point at which you finally lose your grounding. You finally lose the person you truly are, and you try to pretend to be someone that you're not. So for me, my goal as a coach with people with grounding is to take away the horse shit, is to get them back to who they truly are and get them comfortable operating from that place. Because you at your most powerful, you at your absolute best is that grounded person. You don't need a whole set of new skills and new behaviors. You know, I really am fundamentally against trying to put people into a positive mindset, because as soon as you interfere with your mindset, you can no longer trust yourself. So if you woke up this morning and you whacked your foot on the door and stubbed your toe, no amount of telling yourself how positive you feel and how motivated you are changes the fact that you stubbed your toe. So it's getting past the idea that somehow you have to pretend that you're in a positive mindset in order to be successful. In fact, I find the reverse is true. The more you buy into your thinking, positive or negative, the less effective you become. You just have to see that all it is a cloud of thought that's going on for you in the moment, and to let it pass, and it clears itself. So when you're grounded, you are a self-correcting system. Your thinking will change in the moment as soon as you allow new thinking to come in, rather than trying to force yourself to be positive when you're not. And what I found is there are 4 questions that you need to ask yourself in order to be your best grounded version of you. The first question is, who am I? Because the problem is, because of all the horse shit that's clagged around the diamond, you no longer really understand who you are anymore. So my job as a coach there is to chip away the horse shit to get back to who you truly are. Because who you truly are lends yourself to answering the next question, which is, what do I really want? Because we're told, there's been a great TV program on lately which has talked about how marketing men have managed to get us into this consumer cycle of buying. And it's a great example of what we think we want isn't what we truly want. Because again, what we've been told we want starts to replace what we really, really want in life. So part of me, again, works with people to strip that away and get back to what is it you really want. And what I find is that doesn't tend to be money and status driven once you strip all the horse shit away. The third question you have to ask yourself is, how do I think the system works? How do I think the world works? Because if you're operating from the wrong set of directions about how the world works, the chances are you aren't going to get the results you want. So again, getting people understanding how their thinking presents the world to them. So, we're all walking around in our own little bubble of thought here. And it's only when we allow ourselves to realize that that's how the system works that we can liberate ourselves from our own thinking and get after what we truly, truly want. And the fourth question is, how do you show up? Because what I find is, if you show up inauthentically, if you show up as your ungrounded self, you're never going to be truly effective. You're never going to say the things that truly matter and that truly drive change for you. You're going to pretend, and you're going to moderate yourself internally, rather than just being prepared to be a truly grounded you and to say what is the right thing for you in the moment, and to ask for what you truly want. So at the core of what I've done as a business coach over the last 5 years, and sometimes unbeknownst to me, is I've been chipping away at people to get their grounding in the right place. So I began to think, what would it take to accelerate these results in people? Because I work with clients over many years in some cases, and typically they invest a lot of time and money in me over an extended period to get the results that they're looking for. And one of the things I've been curious about is, could you accelerate that? Is there a way of doing that that is much, much quicker? And so I came to a point that actually, I came to design a program which I'm going to roll out in 2015, where I believe that by working with people intensively, I could actually get them to that place much quicker. So I'm only going to be working from the new year in 6-month blocks with people. Because I believe that business coaching should be fun, and it should be life-changing for you, and it should equip you with the tools you need so that you don't require coaching for the rest of time. It's not to say coaching isn't useful for you, but you should be confident to be able to move away for that. So And in 2015, in support of the book, The Sleeping Tiger Revolution, I am launching new programs, and they will only be 6 months long. And these programs are going to install all of these things in people. They're going to give you solid grounding. They're going to help you be stronger at connecting with people. They're going to make you better at executing. And they're going to give you a far better and in-depth understanding of the commercial mechanics by which a business operates. But the reason I wanted to talk to you today is these programs, when they launch next year, are going to last 6 months and are going to be an investment of £12,000. But I'm looking for some pioneers. So I'm actually going to launch these programs in mid-September, and I'm looking for either owners of businesses or people working in businesses that are managing teams of people in businesses that are looking for a way of accelerating their performance. And I'm going to launch them in mid-September, and they're going to be much lower cost because I'm going to be road testing this content with people. So what I'm offering for people that are ready to explore the journey here is an intense and fun 6 months of one-to-one coaching directly with me. So what I'm going to commit to do is to help you solve 2 or 3 of your principal business or career challenges. We will focus down on the key things that are going to make the biggest difference. And I will work with you over 6 months. But in doing that, you're going to get the benefit of these other key things. You're going to get that deep understanding of commercial mechanics. You're going to become super effective because I'm going to help you figure out the right habits that will work for you, that will keep you working and growing your company or developing your team. I'm going to show you how to have much stronger connection with your customers, your suppliers, and your colleagues. And most importantly of all, I'm going to help you find and maintain your true grounding. Now, because this is a road test, I'm going to limit the number of places. There's only going to be 10 places on this round. And the reason I'm doing this at a discounted price is that I want to test my approach. I want to see what happens when you get 100% of my attention. And I'm going to be developing some elements of the program as we go. And at the end of that, I'm going to be looking for 10 really strong testimonials when the results have actually been delivered to you. So here's what happens. Under this 6-month program, they're going to have a one-to-one, you're going to have 6 months of one-to-one guidance directly with me. And that's going to include a half-day kickoff session where we'll meet face-to-face and we'll figure out what the priorities for the program are. We're going to have an accountability call every single week. And every month, we're going to have a 2-hour face-to-face session. And that's going to be supplemented with webinars that are going to focus on the different aspects of the business mechanics, the 7 mechanics that I talked about. Throughout the program, you will have 24/7 Skype, email, or Facebook access to me. I will come back to you and commit to come back to you within 24 hours on any aspect that you're struggling with. And I'm going to record all of the content, all of the sessions you have, so that the learning at the end of the 6 months, you'll be able to take away and you'll be able to use that forever. And as I said, I'm only going to offer 10 places. And as you can see, I'm going to offer them a massive discounted rate of just £3,495 plus VAT per place on the program. And that represents a 70% reduction on the cost of the programs. So if this sounds like something and you sound like you're ready to move forward, have some fun, but work with me intensively in a way that I'm absolutely convinced. I don't offer guarantees with my coaching anymore, and there's a simple reason for it, is that the way guarantees work is that they make me drive you in a direction in order to get quick wins in. Now, those quick wins, whilst they may be very useful, they may not be the right direction for you in the 6 months that we work together. So actually, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you at the start of the program, I'm going to give you the 5 quick win strategies so that you can implement them in your business. These are the things that all business coaches will use in order to pay for themselves. I'm going to give you those at the start of the program and get you to look at them and implement them, so that what we're left with is 6 months where we can work really intelligently together to really help you find your grounding and really punch your performance together. So hopefully, if that's something of interest to you, the next step is to email me and for us to get together for an hour over a cup of coffee and explore how this could work for you specifically. But there are only 10 places. 4 of them have already been, I've already had confirmed 3 places, and I've got a 4th one that somebody looks like they're going to commit to very shortly. So if this is something you think is of interest for you or for members of your team, I encourage you to get in contact with me very quickly. But in the meantime, the book, The Sleeping Tiger Revolution, is available on Amazon now. What I promise you in that book is a bucket load of ideas that are going to really help steer you towards success. And those ideas, you could find answers in the mechanical sections of the book, or you could find something more deeper in the way you're executing, the way you're connecting with other people, or your grounding. So whatever happens, I hope you buy yourself a copy of the book, and I hope you get a huge amount of benefit from those. But if you're really serious and you think there's something you'd like to do in the next 6 months to move yourself forward, get in contact with me, send me an email, and we'll make some time to discuss how the one-to-one sessions might really, really help you. So, true to my own form, I've finished well ahead of time, and I do have a couple of questions that have come in while we've been talking. So I'm gonna deal with those now. And the first question, which I may have actually answered, is how do you help people find their grounding? So I would add something to grounding, is think about when you show up as your very, very best. You have some days where you're in the office and you're absolutely on fire. And you think that they're the fluke. You think they're the odd day. What I'm suggesting is they are your default. That is your default performance. So all I'm doing is helping you figure out how to get to that default performance and to bring your A game in every day, because it is available to you. You've just got stuff that's in the way that's stopping you. So grounding is about taking you backwards. It's about unlearning. It's not about giving you a whole bunch of new stuff to try and learn and remember. It's taking you backwards to what you already know deep inside you, but that you've forgotten because the horse shit has clouded over the diamond. So, and the way I do that is to really get through working with your business or working with your goals in the next 6 months, is I'm exploring your grounding through that process. I hope that answered the question, but do let me know if it didn't. And the second question is, I struggle with focus because there is always too much to do. And I suppose if we take life in general, of course there's always too much to do. Every day I wake up, there's an endless spectrum of choice of what I could do today. But the art of focus is the learning to say no, is the learning to say, actually, there's too much. I can only do so many things. And that's tough because, sometimes everything looks important and everything looks great, but actually focus is the ability to tune out. And I often think of an Olympic athlete. An Olympic athlete doesn't wake up in the morning and say, well, shall I focus on going fishing today, or shall I focus on writing a book? They get up and they go training because that's what athletes do. What about if you applied in your business or in your role for just a 6-month period? you applied the level of focus that an athlete gives, I wonder what sort of results you would have at the end of that. That's what I'm talking about with focus. Focus to me is the art of getting more done, not less, but you do it through saying no and getting concentrating on the things that are going to deliver the results fastest. So I hope that answers that question. So we finished well ahead of time, which I think is a good thing. So I'm going to leave you with one final thought. In your life or in your business or in your career, whatever it is you're trying to achieve, there is a path of least resistance. There is a way of getting to where you're trying to get to easily. Now, it may not always feel the most comfortable path, but it is still the easiest path. So if you entertain the idea that when you operate from a place of grounding, you will naturally find the path of least resistance, you begin to see how grounding drives everything. Grounding makes your day more enjoyable, your day easier, and your results far quicker. I hope you've enjoyed this conversation, and do feel free to get in contact with me if you think that the 6-month program may be something of interest to you. And I hope to speak to you all again soon. I hope you really enjoyed the book, and please let me know your thoughts on it and let me know the ideas that really inspired you in it. And I will speak to you again soon. There'll also be a recording of this webinar out for you in the next day or so. Thanks very much, and I'll speak to you again soon. Goodbye.